Well, it happened. The Pac-12 is going to play football. Now, I was initially going to record this yesterday, but I just got busy and stuff came up. But I'm recording it for all you fine people today, and it got me thinking, well, the Big Ten has reverted their course. Pac-12 has reverted their course. So that must mean the Mid-American Conference and the Mountain West Conference are going to revert their course too. Now, I wasn't terribly high on that, but turns out they did. So every conference is going to play some form of football this fall. And we're here to talk about the impact of all of it. What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. Hey, hit that subscribe button down there. It is free, and I really do appreciate it. Also, leave a like on this video if you enjoy, and I'll be telling you to leave comments down below throughout this video as well. So let's talk about the smaller conferences first, and by smaller, I just mean, not in the Power 5. So we'll talk about the Mountain West. They are going to start the same week of October, play an 8-game schedule starting on October 24th with the conference championship game on December 19th. Again, the league schedule is going to be announced in the near future, but the Mountain West is going to play some football. So this is going to include teams like Boise State, Hawaii, who's usually pretty decent, San Diego State, who was supposed to be decent as well, Utah State. How do they play without Tyler Love? I don't know. We'll find out. But the Mountain West is going to play. Also, along with the Mountain West, the Mid-American Conference is going to play. Now, these were the first two conferences to announce that they're not going to play in the fall, and they're the last two conferences to say, yeah, we'll play it in the fall. We'll revert our decisions. So the Mid-American Conference is going to begin its football season on November 4th and play a 6-game conference-only schedule with a championship game on December 18th or 19th. So again, a game every week. Again, not deciding whether that championship game is going to be on that Friday or that Saturday, but regardless, the Mid-American Conference is going to play too. And I like watching the Mid-American Conference. I know it's arguably the worst conference in college football, just in the overall grand scheme of the conference, but there are still some exciting players. Dustin Crum of Kent State, he's their quarterback. Jarrett Patterson, the running back at Buffalo, very dynamic runner and definitely a top 10 running back in the nation. I mean, there are players I like watching in this conference, and there are teams that I do enjoy watching from time to time in this conference, so they're going to play as well. But now on to the big news, and I'm sure all you guys know about it, or if you don't, that's why I clicked on this video, right? But the Pac-12 is going to be playing a 7-game schedule starting on November 4th. Now, I say 7 games because they're going to play a 6-game regular season starting on November 6th. And then they're going to get a bonus game like the Big Ten is doing, where 1 and 1 will play, one in the North, 1 in the South will play in the championship game, and then 2 in the North, 2 in the South will just like the Big Ten is going to do. So what does this mean for college football? Well, the Mountain West and MAC decisions just mean we're going to have more college football. But the Pac-12 decision has more ramifications than you might think. Or you think exactly like I do, so let's talk about it. It has ramifications on the college football playoff. Oregon was a team that a lot of people were picking to go to the college football playoff as the 4 seed. I didn't really see Oregon being any higher than a 4 seed, and I myself, while I never released a video on it, did have Oregon in the 4 seed before chaos ensued. So what does all this mean for the playoff committee? It means that their decision this year is going to be harder than most, and it definitely, I feel like, is going to be the most controversial out of all the years that we've had. Now, I don't think the committee is going to expand this year. I just don't. There's just too much happening, and they don't want to run the risk of a team that they put in to get. I just don't think that they are going to expand. While I would like to see them expand, I don't think it's going to happen. But the decision of what teams they're going to put in really has become harder, in my opinion, and it's going to have to include a bigger sample size, I feel. Normally, they'd only consider the Power 5 conferences, or it seems like, right? But this year, I really do feel like they're going to have to give strong considerations to whoever wins the American Athletic. That saying, whether it be, of course, the clear favorites UCF or Cincinnati, or a sleeper team like Memphis. And again, if the winner of the American Athletic goes undefeated, you'd really have to think that, hey, we really might want to consider this team, which will probably end up being either UCF or Cincinnati. So, again, now what? Because the committee cannot use head-to-head opponents uh, and common opponents unless you're talking about common opponents in conference, which to me means that there is a likely chance that a team or a conference gets two teams in. But now with the Pac-12 joining back, I think it's pretty unlikely that a conference gets two teams in. For one, the Pac-12 is playing 7 games at most. The Big 12 hasn't looked terribly great up to this point. Um, the Big 10, there's just a clear favorite, right? Maybe they can get a second team in, possibly. If it's Penn State, their only loss being to Ohio State, or if Wisconsin can somehow win and Ohio State just loses a close game to Wisconsin. Well, whatever. But the SEC, I feel like, is going to beat up on each other, and I feel like the ACC is going to beat up on itself as well. So, what can the College Football Playoff Committee use as criteria? Well, again, I just mentioned that they can't use head-to-head opponents because no one is playing, or I should say, excuse me, no one is playing um, outside of their conference more than once. And there are no big matchups like an Ohio State, Oregon, or an Oklahoma, Tennessee, or an Alabama, USC. There's just none of those matchups to be found. So the committee is really going to have to judge a team within its own conference and how good they've been within their own conference. So if Ohio State just absolutely, I'm just using an example here. I'm just using an example here, okay? Don't at me. But if Ohio State absolutely beats up on the rest of the Big Ten, much like they did last year, Ohio State's a top 4 team in the nation, right? Like you can't not put Ohio State in the playoffs if they go 8-0 or 9-0 and win the Big Ten because they played less than 10 games. That's absurd. I feel like the same thing would go for Oregon if they just absolutely beat up on the rest of the Pac-12 and then win that Pac-12 championship game. They're sitting 7-0 and high and mighty. I don't see how you could not put them in unless, of course, they're undefeated conference champions in all the other conferences. But with all the other conferences minus the Big Ten, I feel like going to beat up on each other. I feel like everyone in the SEC is going to have at least a loss. I feel like everyone in the Big 12 is going to have at least a loss. They just haven't looked that good, unless, of course, Oklahoma ends up running away with the Big 12 like they have for the past 4 years. I think the ACC minus Clemson is going to beat up on itself. So that would negate a second team getting in from any of those conferences. So then what can they use? Well, again, they can use how good a team has looked within its own conference. I just talked about that. But do you think that they're going to take sample size into account? By that, I mean how many teams a game, or excuse me, how many games the team has played. So is the committee going to look at the ACC and the SEC and say, hey, you guys have played the most games, you guys are clear to go into the playoff, and then when they look at the Big 10 and Pac-12, they say, yeah, you guys haven't played a lot of games. I'm afraid we're not going to have to let you pass this gate this time. Better luck next year where hopefully there isn't COVID. And I said this earlier, you can't do that because, again, that would go against their own criteria to where if a team is dominant within its own conference, you can't put them out because, you can't put them out because they played less games. That is absurd because we never would have known unless Ohio State played Oregon, never would have known. Again, played a full conference slate, never would have known. Upsets are not going to happen. That maybe would have happened if this were a normal season. Upsets are going to happen this year. That might not have happened if it was a normal season. And you can slot anything you want in there, but the playoff committee is going to have a hard decision to make. That is my point here, and I am curious to see how they are going to base the teams just when their first initial rankings come out. I'm going to be very curious to see where each team fits, because at the point they release it, I believe it's going to be first week in November. Ohio State's going to play 2 games, and Clemson is going to play what, 6 or 7. So yeah, again, it definitely is an interesting season. We'll have to see how it all plays out. But that is my college football update video. Again, I already mentioned it, but please leave a like. Also consider subscribing if you are brand new to the channel, or you just enjoy my content. It's free, and I always appreciate it. And if you can, turn on that bell so you do not miss an upload, and you can join Tailgate Nation. Also, leave a comment down below. What do you think the playoff committee is going to do now? And are you excited for Pac-12 football? Anyways, guys, as always, remember to play hard and tailgate harder. I'll see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.